Hope you're all well. Everyone's having a nice finish to their spring, and that everyone's ready to learn today. We've got some great content for you. Thank you so much for attending. We've got a really nice showing today. It looks like over 200 people on this call, which is a really stellar turnout for a webinar. And I am really excited to host you all and have you all here. I have the honor and privilege to host 3 of my great industry friends here today. And we're all fortunate for the opportunity to learn from them and hear their experiences in the wild and woolly world of direct sales compliance. So lots of interest in this session. Many of you may recognize this topic from the Direct Selling Legal and Compliance Summit that we held in February with the great Terrell Transtrom and Peter Marinello. And they did a fantastic job to kind of get the conversation started around what to say when you can't say anything. So from that, we had so much interest from the audience. Everyone wanted to hear more about what we, what we talked about, decided to give it a bit deeper dive into the compliance solution side of the discussion. And I really can't think of a better group of executives in this space to guide us there than our panelists today. First, we have the great Erin Barta, who is the General Counsel at Mannatech. Erin, nice to see you. I'm seeing you on my screen up here. Hi. After that, we have LaRane Jensen, who is a Director of Compliance at LifeVantage. And good to see you, LaRane. And there we go. All right, video's working. And finally, Rena Schultz, the Senior Director of Compliance at Xyngular. Rena, how are you?
Oh, good. Thank you.
Good, good. All right. Well, again, this topic is great. 2 of you, Rena and Rain, were on that panel. I'm very happy to welcome Erin to this panel as well. But you'll recall there was lots of scuttlebutt and discussion about this topic both before and after. And I think we left people wanting more. So we're really excited to be able to kind of dive into this one. You guys did such a great job, and even to the point of providing tools for the audience to take home and hopefully work at their HQ with. So we'll be hopefully offering those up on this call. We will be offering those up on this call, and happy to get all of you here. Thank you so much for attending and participating. And I think our audience is going to learn quite a bit from this discussion. So with that, so new approaches for messaging field. So we all know that compliance and legal are often considered the department of no, right? So, what you can't say, don't say this, don't do that. Here's the hammer coming down. Here's an email from compliance. There's a text from compliance. In the past, I would say more in the past than now, those messages have been scary for the field to receive sometimes. They've done something wrong when they didn't really mean to. They were just talking about their experience. And so compliance departments over the years have built this kind of reputation for just saying what you can't do, right? And I think these days, things are changing a bit, with the advent of social media, with I think the understanding of companies of what the compliance function really should be, which is a partner to the field. I think times are changing. And part of the goal of this presentation is to help kind of further that along. How can the compliance department become more of a partner to the field and less of the police, right? So, I think this is just such a great topic, and that's just validated by the turnout today. It's incredible, the number of people on this call and who are really interested in this topic. So, with that, I'll start it off if you don't mind. So what I'd like to ask first is, you guys have, I think, and I know all of your departments very well, your compliance departments very well, as your clients of ours, but you guys are very successful at doing some of the things I just said. And that's what the folks here want to learn from. So let me ask, maybe we'll kind of go down the road here. How do you guys set up your field teams for success in the beginning? Like what kinds of maybe themes or messages or even tactics do you deploy to kind of get towards this idea of becoming partners with them and helping them be successful in their businesses? Erin, why don't we start with you?
Sure. We participate in the onboarding process. We engage with our sales team in how to introduce people to Mannatech. A lot of times, it's customers who transition into the business builder side, right? And they are super fans of the brand and the products, and they're really excited. And so sometimes they'll be a little overzealous and say things maybe that they shouldn't. But you can stop that at the forefront in the onboarding process by telling them where they can go to get materials, what are the best sources for claims and proper claims, and what to say about the products and the opportunity.
Nice. Rena?
Yeah, I think our biggest win is we create a strong partnership. We like to, just like what you said, that way it's not looked at as compliance as like, oh no, here comes the bad guys, or we got one of those dreaded letters. We really focus on partnership. And I think our biggest win is to start with the leaders. If you have a great relationship with a leader and a good partnership and, communicating regularly, that message trickles down. So when they are, they're enrolling that new distributor, or, like Erin said, they're upgrading to a distributor, they're like, hey, just keep in mind, here are some things with compliance. Also, if their team reaches out to you, they're awesome. And so now you've got you could have a team of 5 people, but if you have 300 leaders that you're focusing on, you just grew you're kind of spreading that message. So you have a bigger team and more buy-in and more support. So I think that's been a big one for us.
Well done. It sounds like buy-in is a big starting point here, like getting them on your side, right? How about you, Rain?
One of the things that we do is, I want to just add on to what both Erin and Rena have said, is we have some things when they log in as a new distributor where they can click on a pop-up and it kind of gives them some information and resources kind of right out of the gate. But our biggest win too is the partnership with the field and with our sales and distributor support team. And so we work really closely with our top leaders and get their feedback on how we can do a better job at approaching their teams in the field. And then having really good core relationships with our internal staff too is huge, because we see ourselves as an extension of the sales team and of the distributor support and customer experience team. And so making sure that we are aligned in our efforts and that we're all sharing that same message has been huge for us. And so we've been really fortunate to have such great sales and team, and our distributor support team is amazing. And so
yeah, that's really interesting what you said, to view yourselves as an extension of the sales team. You don't hear that much in compliance realms. It's usually like a little bit of this, maybe it's marketing over here, at least traditionally. I think these days you're right. I think it's changing. You guys are leading the way in that trend. But yeah, the idea that we hire people in compliance from the client success department very often. You find the best one who's really organized and really take that on, and that's very much a pipeline for compliance folks, right? So it used to be go find somebody who's a really good project manager and is really good at hammering on people, and maybe some people from the collections department. Maybe that's not the case anymore. So so that's just siding with the field, getting them on your side, having that compassion for them, understanding where they're at, those kinds of salesy kind of approaches to the field, but using this for compliance, because you're basically selling them the idea that, hey, we're protecting your business, right? There's some sales in that. Would you say, Rena, that there's a sales job for you in this?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's even to the point of, when you talk about the partnership and you're trying to enforce that message, like, hey, we're your partners. I actually tell our distributors all the time in trainings, I'm like, hey, because we do use FieldWatch. And I'm like, and I explain to them, because they think I Facebook stalk them. So like, I really want to be your friend on Facebook, but you're going to get mad if, and I'm like, no, I don't have time for that. Like, I have a system that does that called FieldWatch. So I always explain that to them. And I'm like, it's actually a good thing when FieldWatch catches something, because that means it's coming to us. And it's a great opportunity because we got your back. Like, we're going to get it. We're going to get a whole, we're going to reach out to you. We're going to work through it and we're going to get it corrected. And so we always tell them it's a good thing if we're reaching out to you first rather than something else. So yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I'd rather hear from Rena than, a regulator. How about you, Erin? Any comments on that?
Yeah, I think that the philosophy has to be, in the legal and compliance world, right? We don't make the products or formulate the products or sell the products, but we support those who do, right? And so if you're coming at it from that angle, I think it's a much more receptive place to be, right? If you're viewed as a support center, you're here to answer questions, you're here to help guide and coach. That's a much better place to be than the finger wagger, right? Or the person that's just beating you down and telling you you're doing everything wrong, right?
Right.
Yeah, and it's got to be conversational, right?
Sure.
That's how we view it.
Sure. How about internally with the C-suite in that same message? Do you find that it's easier or more difficult to get that message across, or is it, there's a different environment that you have internally than you have with the field, right?
Yes, but I do think from our C-suite perspective, I think that approach is appreciated, right? So that they're not answering phone calls of, from top leaders saying that someone in their organization has gotten a nasty gram from compliance, right? So I think having this conversational approach, using it as coaching moments, right, and engaging as opposed to what I call the finger wagging, right? It's much more receptive to the field, and then also to our C-suite and the other executives in the building who might be receiving the phone calls from an upset upline.
Sure. Not always the best alternative, right? So
Right.
full stop at compliance. Love it. Okay, great. Let's shift gears a little bit. So one of the questions I have here is, can you guys speak to how you help sales folks in the field properly promote their products, income, time freedom, those kinds of things? How do you help them, shifting from what they can't do to what they can do? Like, where do you see your role in that, in the educational part of that? Rain?
One of the things that we've been trying to do is, as far as changing the way they kind of see us a little bit, as far as being able to coach and talk them through the claims that they want to make. A lot of times you notice the field, they have this fear of what they're acting out of fear, or they're responding out of fear versus feeling empowered and confident. And so one of the things we really want to do is empower them to feel confident about what they share. And because the more empowered and confident they feel in about what they're going to share, the more authentic that story will be, the more engaged they'll be with their, just, when they're able to say it from a place that feels authentic and it's true to who they are, they will just come from such a different spot than if they feel like they're robotic. And so giving them tools and resources so that they feel like they can be empowered and confident, and again, see us as an extension of what they're already doing, that we're here to just lock arms with them and tag along with them to help them. And so.
Yeah, fantastic. How about you, Rena?
Yeah, I love that. I think that's so important. I think it's also, like I said, I talk a lot about our system and FieldWatch and how it catches keywords. I like to explain the bolts of why a post would come up, right? And rather than saying, hey, don't say this word, it's always a conversation of, it's not just saying, try saying it this way, but we like to put a spin on it to not just be, obviously for compliance reasons, we're here to protect your business, right? And protect the company. But we also like to put spin as far as, marketing. When you just say one word, hey, I had depression, and because of the products, I don't have depression anymore. I mean, there's a million reasons why they can't say that, right? But we like to say, hey, it's just one word. You need to tell a story behind it. There's ways to tell a story without, making it an FDA concern, FTC concern, and the stories is what's going to stick than just that one word. It's like this whole big story, and people who may not have that condition or may not be struggling with this certain, whatever, they hear a story, and now you're not just pinpointing one person with that one issue. You are pinpointing so many people who may not have a condition, or, and people know, they know these days, they know that I'm not going to take a dietary supplement, it's going to cure whatever. They know they're more focused on getting healthy, not curing, right? So they hear a story, and it's so much different. There's a book, and it's called, and I always encourage my team, our field, when we do our trainings, I'm like, read this book, because we have this keynote speaker, and I'm drawing a blank as to her name, but it's called Stories That Stick. And she literally talks about how to create this story. And I mean, it was so impactful for our field, but that's put the marketing spend and kind of get, it's not just about being compliant. So.
Sure. And it just seems like, over the years, as we've done this work in compliance and we've seen how it's moved from, here's my product, buy my product, here's my story, I cured my whatever, to much more of a, here's how my life has changed with this company, with this product in positive ways that aren't necessarily tied to a feature of the product, or especially on the wellness side, or their income for that matter. I think there's a lot of, there's been a shift for sure. And obviously a lot of this has been forced by the environment that we're in, but also I think just the being on social media, people don't necessarily believe that this essential oil cured your cancer, right? So I think there's a trend going our way. And I think, part of the, again, a great reason for this particular presentation is to help people understand there are other ways to do this. So if you had, let's just say, Rain, you had one of your distributors say, well, this was my experience. I cured my eczema with this and it went away. I put it on and I can tell the truth. I'm not lying. How do you respond to that? And how would you, with this kind of new approach, respond to that and bring them on as a partner?
So helping them understand the why, I think, is super important. I think that one of the biggest pieces we've been able to help and give to our field and to our internal, staff is understanding the why, and like why they couldn't actually say that, and then help them in how they flip the switch or flip the script, right? And so that they can share it in a way. And so we can talk about how, that is true. That is true, right? That is your experience. However, that is not actually how our product was, registered, or that's not the substantiation we have behind it. And so we have to, because we are now selling something in, e-commerce, right? And we've put something out there, we're bound by the rules and regulations that come with that. And they're an extension of that because they're selling it. And so the biggest win we've had is helping them understand the why, and just having a one-on-one conversation and letting them know that if they're having one-off conversations person to person, that's a different scenario or conversation that they can have than if they're presenting to an entire group, or like that's an alternative, right? If they're presenting to an entire group, if they're putting it on their Facebook feed or on their social media feed, and then, we have to talk about why that's not okay and give them alternatives to what is okay. And, person to person conversation, have that need conversation, right?
Sure.
That's
Well,
our biggest win, though.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely be talking more about what they can say. I know you've got some good content for us coming up and kind of switching that script, as you say. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'd like to talk a little bit about coaching, how you coach the field. Like, for example, how do you do your onboarding? How do you get into the onboarding process as far as compliance messaging, things they can and can't do? Maybe Erin, you can share what Mannatech does. And I should say, Mannatech, I really feel is one of the leaders in really in this industry in focusing on compliance and making it a competitive advantage that the company is concerned about compliance. It's very proactive on it because it becomes ultimately a protection of the businesses of the people they have in the field. And all of your companies are great at this work. So Erin, I know you were kind of an architect in that. So tell us about what you guys are doing as far as coaching.
Yeah, so we approach it, we have a really product-driven field, right? And so they like to talk about the experience that they've had with the products. So we try to approach it from the standpoint of how does it make you feel, right? Not so much that it cured your conkus of the bonkus, but what is the emotional? I stole that from Dr. Nugent, who's our Chief Science Officer. So
terrible.
Proper attribution. But we focus on the emotional connection, and that's one of the ways that our team, assists with that from a compliance standpoint. So, for instance, with our flagship product, we did a video where we talked with longstanding field leaders who had been using the product for a long time, and one of the most impactful components of that video was a woman who talked about how she was able to be the grandmother that was on the playground playing with her grandkids, right? And creating memories that that she's going to cherish for the rest of her life, and that her grandkids are grow up cherishing, right? And she is out there actively participating and playing, as opposed to sitting on a park bench watching the kids playing, right? That was really impactful. We had another testimonial that we coached someone through about talking about how she has the energy to get through her day, right? And so she rattles off all of her roles, right? She's a taxi driver, right? She is the best soccer mom ever, right? And she is the head chef. And she also has time to fit in her workout, right? So she's got all of this going on, and she's got the energy to complete it all, right? Just talking about the experiences and what that means. And you can do the same thing with the income opportunity, right? I think context is everything. So if you're talking about the time and effort that it takes to build a business, I think one way to do that is to create the context. And I know we were all kind of taken by surprise with Edith Ramirez and Tina talking about being a stay-at-home parent, that was just an impermissible claim, right? Well, we try to teach our field to put context around it, right? So I can make a meaningful contribution to my family. I'm able to stay home and be there when my kids get home from school. I can participate in their after-school activities. Then when my spouse gets home, he or she gets to spend quality time with the kids. Well, I can focus on my Mannatech business, right? So just create that context instead of the blanket statement, right? Kind of like what Rena was alluding to, right? Where just that one word, just that one statement doesn't necessarily convey everything. Put the context around it.
Sure, I would ask also, Erin, Dick Lauren had asked in the chat here, highlight your training Zoom. So along coaching, tell us about the training Zooms you guys do.
Yeah, so we participate in the Zoom sessions that we have for our field, right? And so we use that as opportunities to teach about things that come up. One of them was, what is Field Watch? I think it was Rena who talked about stalking you online, right? We had some people that were kind of like freaked out, like we were watching their every move, right? But so, we teach them what Field Watch is, and then we, highlight if there's a new product, right? We highlight where they can find the permissible claims on that and what they can say, and just try to talk about topics that are relevant and of interest to them, and engage with them that way.
Awesome. Excellent. Any other comments, ladies, on the coaching and training?
Yeah, I actually, Erin, you hit right on it with like the one word. Sorry, I'm like, so with this, I would like to understand, our field really struggled with, when we agreed as an industry, financial freedom. Like I always tell our distributors that, I'm like, that is like the double F word, literally, like do not use that. But our field really struggled with that, and they didn't get it. They were like, well, why? And just a lot of pushback. And I remember having conversations with several leaders, several distributors, and anytime my team had to reach out to them, we're like, well, tell me your definition of financial freedom. And they're like, well, my definition of financial freedom is, hey, I know that my son is graduating in a couple of months, and I want to be able to, I can plan in 3 months, he's going to have a graduation party, and I can plan and have that, control of, I'm going to work this hard for these months, and this is my goal to earn this much money so that when I have the graduation party, I don't have to hold back. I can give him the best graduation party. I can, not limit it to only 10 friends. I can say, you can buy all your friends. I mean, it's like this big story, and we just sit there and we're like, hey, you just told a more impactful story than hashtag financial freedom, right? That's financial freedom to me is, I want to buy Twitter. That's financial freedom just to throw out to buy.
I wish you would.
But that's, realistically, what is financial freedom? It's just that name that our industry is familiar with. Same with time freedom. We are learning very quickly that Tina hates that word. And so now the FTC hates that word. And thank goodness for the DSSRC, Peter and Howard being very open and saying, hey, let's start staying away from that word. And I'll be honest, I always reach out to Peter and Howard and I'm like, well, why? What if we say it this way? And I've had several, I kind of kicked back a couple of things and it actually makes sense. What does time freedom mean? I'm doing the same thing that I know our distributors are going to do, but in all reality, it's having that flexibility in your schedule, right? And actually explaining what that means. You can do your business in the morning, take a break, go to your kids' first grade class and be the room mother, and then come home and start doing your business again. That's not time freedom, that's flexibility. So I think it really goes into that too. So.
Yeah, I know it's really difficult when you have the field. It's something that sounds so simple. Like I can say financial freedom. Why can't I just say those words? And they don't know the history behind it. They don't know the consumer advocates that are pushing that with the FTC, that the FTC is listening to them, why it's a problem. It's really hard to make that connection. And I'm interested if you guys ever have issues with that, making that connection, because you've got folks who, on its face, doesn't sound like a terrible thing to say the words, right? But we know there's legal implications to everything that we say. And so do you guys have any like special ways that you communicate that, or do you not communicate that at all in terms of like that bridging that gap? Or do you just, like you say, Rena, just offer them an alternative scenario of storytelling that might be helpful?
I think it's all alternative. We do a do's and don'ts list, and we actually do like, here are words that we know will send red flags. And they're just, it's kind of like the DSSRC risk list. For those of us who are very familiar with it, it's same thing, right? But we also offer the do's, because if you don't offer do's, they're going to find other ways. And you're like, oh, 3 out of 5. So it's, that's kind of how we approach it.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Thesaurus.
What's that?
I said, I see us kind of like the thesaurus.
Thesaurus, yeah.
Right.
And that's what we're here on this webinar for, right? That's why there's such a high interest in this topic. What can we say? So on that note, do you guys feel that when we help them understand the why behind what we do, the rules and regulations, do you think it changes the view of compliance? Like, how do you feel like the field has previously viewed the compliance department, compliance function, and how do you think that needs to change?
I would give a great example. I think I feel that our field really understands it. I think if you're open and honest about what's happening in our industry, if you communicate, what the FTC is doing, what they're thinking, they're going to know anyways, right? Unfortunately, when a couple of years ago with Advocare, I found out about that from like 3 leaders texting me saying, oh my gosh, did you hear this? Not from anything else, and I was like, so they'll find out anyways, but then they learn to appreciate what we're doing, and I've even had a leader introduce me on a team training that we were doing. And she's like, okay, guys, and Texas accent and all, like, just so awesome. And she's like, y'all better listen to Rena. And she's like, and her story is that she paid off her mom's house. Her mom's, elderly, and she took care of her mom and paid off her mom's house. And so she's like, y'all better listen to Rena because she's protecting my mama's house. And because she gets what our mission is. And she's like, you guys better be on board too, because this isn't just me, this is all of us. So I think that's helped to really get that message across.
That's great. It seems like once you have, like you've been, Rena said several times, once you have that partnership with the senior upline, then that can really be helpful down the road. Rain, Erin, have you guys had a similar approach where you're working with leaders who can proselytize for you?
Yeah. One of the things that we've been doing with our leaders and trying to change the way they see us so that they'll want to like reach out to us and utilize us as part of the resources that they have at their fingertips, right? Is you'll hear me use the scenario of an NFL football team. And so when we do leadership trainings and things like that, or we get in front of the field, we talk to them about how to see us. And so I explained to them, if you think about an NFL football team, how many coaches does a player have? Like, you think about your offensive, defensive, you've got your special teams, you've got I don't know all the football terms, so forgive me. But anyway, there's a lot, right?
A lot of terms, yes.
Yes. And they're all there. All of those coaches. I mean, you have the defensive, you have the offensive, you have someone who's like showing you the plays, right? And running it. They're teaching you how to get hit. They're teaching you how to hit. They're teaching you, what your opponent's doing and things like that. And so we explained to the field that we are one of your coaches. Here at LifeVantage, we have, our sales team, we have our distributor support team, we have our C-suite team, we have the ops team, and you have your compliance team. And we all have a different role in showing and teaching and coaching you on how to play your best game and to be safe and to be smart and to be successful, to try not to get hurt, right? And so when they can wrap their heads around the fact that we're same, we're on the same team, actually, we're actually not different teams, then they start to want to reach out to us and they are listening to what we have to say. And so they're wanting, like what Rena was saying, inviting us to their calls. So that's another thing that because we've changed it, we're changing that scenario with our field, we're able to join their team calls. So we've been joining leaders and team calls, and we do live Q&As so they can feel like we're right there with them, that we're there to help them know what they need and have what they need.
Excellent. That's fantastic. It sounds like a lot of partnering going on, a lot of re-messaging, redirecting to the things that work, that work. And again, it's all about education in the end, right? Very few set out to just go violate the rules.
Right.
So you get accidental, they don't know what they did wrong. We all know it's a motivation killer if they just get hammered and they just get told what they can't do. So you guys being on the front lines of that, eminently important to that process, to making them feel welcome. Your teams, I'm sure you hire for these skills, right? So you hire people who are good working with the field, good at passing along firm directions, but also coaching and helping. So that's awesome. I'd like to kind of turn it to a little bit more, I guess, meta on that topic. What do you think the field really wants out of the opportunities that they're in with regard to compliance? So why do they join? What is it they should be talking about that would bring others into the fold of really helping them understand the benefits that they've got from their companies and their products? Anybody want to take that?
Yeah, I will. I think a lot of it stems from they want to be heard, right? Sometimes when they reach out to you with questions, or maybe it's an upline who wants to vent about something, but they want to be heard, right? So I also think it's important to be approachable so that there is a level of comfort in having those types of conversations with you or with a member of your team. Participate in the events, right? A lot of times our teams will be there to monitor, live events or even online events. But, go and watch other presentations that may not necessarily have a compliance component, right? So be visible, be approachable. If it's an online event, we participate in the chat. And, if we recognize a name, say hello, right? Congratulate folks who may have won an award, right? So that they see you participating and engaging and they know you and they feel more comfortable, right? Because I think at the end of the day, they want to be heard, right? And they are, your distributors are your best customers, right? Because they're talking to the end user customer, right? So I think, quote unquote, the proper care and feeding of them and the respect, giving them respect and listening to what they have to say is key.
Yeah. I would jump on that and say just being validated too. When you say being heard, it's also their stories being validated, right? They have this amazing story that, it's cured whatever. You don't just approach it as to hey, you can't say that. Let's talk about how you can say it. It's that's an amazing story. I'm so happy to hear that. Take a minute, listen to what their story is, relate to them, right? And then it's okay, well, let's figure out how to say it so that you can actually put this on Facebook, right? If they're not promoting, they're not building. And so I think it's being validated. And I know that they do love that. That's something that they definitely want. They want to know that you actually care. I always joke with our distributors, and I always say things like you guys, even when your stories aren't compliant and I read them, or I hear you say something, I'm like crying at the same time, because it's like, oh my gosh, that's so non-compliant, but I'm so touched by it. I
Non-compliant tears.
yeah, I sincerely mean that, because I'm listening with my heart, but my compliance brain is like, okay, let's figure out how to say it the right way. So yeah, I think they love hearing that.
That can be really magic when you take it from a non-compliant tearjerker to a compliant tearjerker.
Yeah.
and it still does the same thing. And if it's there, and we all know that this industry lives on those stories. It's those stories are what keep us all going. And again, aren't we all here to be validated? Don't we all want validation? Don't we all want to be heard and listened to? And I think taking those natural humanistic needs and applying it to our to this kind of dry world of compliance is always a good idea, right? Awesome. I would like to, some of you who were at the DSLC in February got to see a little snippet of a slide that Rane put up on the screen that I believe it was a coaching card, you called it. Is that right?
It is.
And there was a lot of interest in this, and Rane has generously and graciously offered up sort of a generic one that folks on this call can take a look at, and she'll walk us through that. And then all of you, if you would like to add comments or questions into the chat bar, I'd love to see those, and maybe we'll get to those towards the end of this. We're doing pretty good on time so far. So Rane, why don't you take it over? I don't know if we need to do a screen share or how Mike set this up yet.
Yeah, I think I can screen share. So let's see here. Let's make sure I'm in the right.
So far, the technology's worked out great. So Rane.
Okay.
Put it up.
I just want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen.
Oh, perfect.
Can you see the right screen? Yeah.
That's
Okay,
great.
excellent. So to give some background, this started with when we send out, we also use FieldWatch, and we send
Thank
out
you all
letters.
for the plug. So this is consistently hearing our name.
You're welcome. It's just a plug for you. So when we would send out letters, kind of to everyone's point here, no one likes to just get this heavy letter, right? And so, but part of that was our compliance specialists on my team were needing ways to be able to coach someone through it. And so we had created in our internally just a cheat sheet, if you will, of okay, when they call in and we've noticed that this is the claim that they're making, then what can they say, or how can we help them change that and tweak it so that it makes sense, or they can post it, or they, to make it compliant. So we had this list in our, internal system that we all shared, and we'd add to and subtract from. And so then we started talking internally on how we could get that in the hands of our distributor so that they could feel like they already have that at their fingertips. So we created an income coaching card, and we're creating a product coaching card too. And so we've kind of broken it out to look a little bit like this. So, and I think a lot of people have something maybe similar of what you've created for your own teams, or, but right here on the red, it will be claims that you can't make. And I have some actual examples, and we'll get to that in a second. And then the yellow, we were is your education, it's the why, so you can't do this, but why can't I do this? Right? Like a kid, why tell me? Right? And then what can you do and what makes sense? And then let's give some real life examples, right? So we'll come up here. So we've got our problem claim. So, if anyone was listening yesterday to the DSA's webinar, they had one that was similar to what we are doing today, but kind of more of a legal standpoint, which was a huge and amazing segue into this. And John and Katrina did an amazing job. And so anyway, 6-figure income, we hear that all the time, right? So these are problem claims that are flags, top 5%, significant earning potential. And then we've given the team and the distributors education, how much income, do participants really make? Let's think about it, And then we talked about what regulatory guidelines are. And we've pulled a lot of this information from the guidelines that have come from the DSSRC. And they have been a huge source and resource of help to us in helping us communicate better with our field appropriate claims. And so we're huge advocates of them. Anyway, so then we go on to like, this is our education piece, is telling them why they can't say this or why, how we need to rethink it or structure it. And then approved claims and recommendations, right? You state it in the terms of supplemental, which is basically extra income, right? It's extra money that you get to add to your pocket. And then we've just got some examples here of like, you know, how do you talk about extra income in your words and your stories? You know, this helps with the end of month stress. This extra income is very nice. It has taken some of the pressure off. And then let's say they give a dollar amount, right? Like, you know, I earned an extra $200 this month or an extra $400, makes a big difference. And then using a proper disclosure statement on when they're doing that. So one of the things we've been doing is we have been doing weekly trainings with our field. So we do a standard training where we go over our coaching cards, and then we do some Q&A, and they get to ask questions of us. And we kind of walk through these coaching cards with them. And it's been received brilliantly. Like it's been huge for them to be able to have this resource for them. And then, you know, down here we have some other red flags, right? You know, be set for life, quit your job, realize your unlimited income. And then these are some generic things we've got here. Like when you're reviewing your earnings, you know, by the rank of whatever your person is, you know, this is how much money that particular rank actually makes. Like maybe you're giving a disclosure of like, you know, these ranks, if you're at LifeVantage, if you're like a Pro 1, that's the kind of the ground, you know, the starters, you know, or Pro 2, Pro 3, you know, talking about each individual ranking and what those different ranks maybe make. And then the higher earner you are, obviously you become atypical, because most of the distributors are not atypical. So we need to talk about typical. And so when you get into the higher ranks, you're considered atypical. And so making sure you have additional disclosures and explaining that to your field and understanding the importance of the disclosure statements. So we kind of have broken ours out into problem, you know, what the problem is with the claim, but we kind of talk about income in, like, you'll notice up here, it says, how much money, you know, am I making? So we've kind of broken it into categories of questions that we get. And so if someone were to create one for yourself, you could break it down into the kind of questions that you get with your field. And then the status, like, what's my status? Like, am I rich? Do I have financial freedom? Right. And the answer is, you know, am I retired? No. Am I rich? No. At least the typical, right? We're not talking about atypical. And then again, we talk about what the approved recommendation is, and then we give examples of how to do it, how to say it. And the examples that we're giving, and this one has, I would shout this from the rooftop to everyone. In some of our live calls, we ask for the field to be really candid with us on what they want to share and what they want to say. And then we kind of talk through it together so that we can give them real tools that are theirs. And so they're using their words, and that just helps them feel so much more confident and empowered. Anyway, and then we also have, so we broke it down like this, and then we've created some disclaimers. So as part of our income, you know, what do you need to do? You need to talk about, so these are some of the reds, like presentation or discussion of atypical earnings. So if you're in one of those higher ranks, you know, what do you need to do? So then education, what's a disclaimer? We talk about what it is, what's the purpose of it, you know, how to include it and its importance. And then obviously you can fill this in however you would. And then this is an example of our success disclaimer, you know, and something that we put, and we've worked with the DSSRC in helping to make this better and more complete and accurate. I think the one that we use the most is this one right here, of the average earnings, right? For the average distributor or the typical. One of the things that I thought was really helpful yesterday in the DSAs is they talked about average versus typical, and that average and typical might not actually be the same, that the typical distributor's income could be a lot less than your average, because when you're putting in those higher ranks and you're creating that score, that could shift. And so being mindful of that and talking about that with your distributors and being open and honest. Anyway, So that's our coaching cards. And what we do is we do a training and we walk through the cards, we do Q&As. We even were able to get our sales team to let us offer an incentive point for our current trip that we have right now, which is huge. And so it's encouraged people to want to come and hear what we have to say and letting us share this and help educate. And so.
Well, this is fantastic. I know why people were so excited to see this at the conference, and now it's just a solution. It's a step-by-step solution, and I think everyone on this call could devise something very similar. And thank you, Rain, because this is something you're helping the industry with. I mean, everybody on the call, there are no competitors in the compliance space. We're all on the same team, and we're all
we all win. We're leveraging each other, right?
Right. Make all boats float higher when whatever that metaphor is. But thank you. That was awesome. And any other questions, please direct them to Rain or directly. Many of you know the folks on the panel here. I'd like to open it up for more questions. I did get one. Richard Brook, friend of ours, had asked a few questions. He said, do you publish a list of phrases that are non-compliant? Why those phrases are non-compliant, and what is suggested replacement? I think we saw that on the cards just now. And also, Richard, you can always go to the DSSRC. I would say that to everyone on this call, the DSSRC are friends. They are here to support. Peter and Howard are fantastic. They're, as each of the ladies here have indicated, have been very helpful in their businesses. Use them. And if you have questions, go to them. They're here to help, certainly. And in the end, they come out with some great content, and they know the rules. They're very up to date on everything that regulators are saying and need to see and hear. So thank you guys for that. Any other questions? You guys have any other comments you want to make? I'm looking through the chat here for a couple that might be here. I don't see any others here.
I do see the Q&A. There's a couple in the Q&A. It talks about making meaningful relationships when the compliance team is so small and the field feels so big.
Great question.
I think one of the most important things that we have done is we have attempted to lock arms with our leaders and connecting with our leaders, because like Rena said, and Erin, that trickles down into your field, and they are like your best customer. Really, they really are. And they're going to be an extension of you and what you say. So if they have a great relationship and they have a new distributor come on, they're not going to be afraid to say, reach out to compliance. They'll totally help you. They will be like, they're on your side. I promise. Like, just give them a call. No question's a dumb question, right? And so that has been huge when we have gotten that partnership and buy-in from our leaders, and that they know we really are on their side and that we have their back. And that we're approachable, we're fun, actually. Best ask us.
I would validate that. I've been in conferences with you guys. You guys are a good time. Those conferences can be dry and boring sometimes, but we liven them up with our great personalities, right? The compliance side, compliance and legal.
I'm not wearing, police outfit today. But
Who'd have thought? Awesome. I'd like to say
second, Jonathan, because
go
I
ahead,
think it's something that we should all start considering in our industry and the compliance world. With FTC, I think something that we've learned during the pandemic, right, is, and obviously we see this with like the great reshuffle, right? The great resignation, which I don't know, those of you who followed Darren Hardy, and a lot of people are just renaming it the great reshuffle because people want something different, right? So this is like a great opportunity for our industry, but something that gives perspective. My CEO shared with me, he's part of a CEO forum, and probably several companies that are on this call as well is also part of that. And they did a survey with those companies, their field. And it was basically like, why did you even join Xyngular? And why are you still in, these companies or the direct selling space? And believe it or not, the feedback majority was people over comp plan. So they are joining because they want They want that. They want the culture. They want the community. And so I think it's something for us to really start thinking about. I listened to a distributor, and those of you who go to events, you get these people who just join, and they have great success, and whatever they're doing is amazing, and they get asked to present on stage at these events for a reason, but they've never done it before. And you hear them get on stage and they're like, I never in a million years thought I would be up on stage doing this, but here I am. And then you just watch this power come out. That's an amazing reason, right? Or you have someone who their house, their ranch got torn up from a tornado, and their whole entire downline came together to help rebuild, to help get them together. And that's their community. So I think it's something for us to also plug into our distributors, is that's what people want. They want people. They want to be part of something greater than just the money. So I think that's something we should also start trying to get our distributors in our field to promote as well.
That's where we differ as an industry from e-commerce and Amazon's. I mean, no one's Uber will drive you to the airport, but they're not your friends. They're not going to have a party for you. And no one on Amazon's walking across the stage and getting a sash across and getting Princess Crown or whatever. It's like, it's a whole different world. And that's why we live. That's why we exist here. And it's one of the great things, undersold benefits of being in these organizations. A couple questions. So here's a good one. If you have experience, can you speak to situations in which social media content of top leaders, which may not explicitly identify your company, but contain content that does not meet your compliance standards? How do you coach them regarding their responsibility as your field trendsetters? So top leaders who are not mentioning the company, but they're talking about some non-compliant things. What's your solution? Erin?
Yeah, it's an implied claim, right? Because chances are on their social media, there's something about the company there, right? Whether it's images from an event or images of products or whatever, chances are there's something there. And look, if we can figure that out, a regulator can figure that out. So we coach them.
Like to connect the dots.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. So we coach them to treat, like, an implied claim is a claim, right? So that's how we handle those situations.
Nice. Another question from Kristen Evans. Any suggestions on how to best manage income claims when a company does not have an income disclosure statement? Erin, on that one, legal?
Yeah, wow, that's a tough one. If you are going to be making income claims, you need to have an income disclosure statement. There's really no way to get around that.
All your lawyers would be the answer.
You've got to have that substantiation for any of the claims, or you're going to get tagged for that.
Yeah, it's not difficult.
I encourage reaching out to the DSSRC. And picking their brains and working together on something that you can create together, because they are wonderful at helping you kind of dial it into you and your company. Like, they really are. They're super intentional, and they're wonderful. So yeah, use them. Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's a great theme here too. So what do we have here? We have partner with the field, partner with the leaders, become their friend in business, show them that you care, listen. And when you need expert advice, DSSRC or the many great lawyers we have in this industry are a great resource. There are resources everywhere. There's no reason not to have an IDS. There's just so many great people to turn to about that. And then, the rules are always changing, and that's why we have this great self-regulation in DSSRC and the DSA support. So yeah, I think this is a fantastic getting together here. Couple things real quick. Most of the folks on this call are FieldWatch users, and we have just released 3 features I'm really excited about. One is our quick cap, which is a quick capture ability to be in your browser and capture any native or any post you can find. I see Rena clapping. Any post you can find, and then adding it to FieldWatch within your browser without having to go in the system and add it in. It'll add the screenshot and all that stuff. We're just releasing that now. You can actually go to the Google Store and download it. And then our targeted social media surveillance is a big one, where we're zeroing in and monitoring specific representatives considered to be high risk for compliance, so we can watch everything they're doing, and then we're going to start watching their other channels. Huge for everybody, I think, and just making sure that we capture those people, because if they're saying something on Twitter they shouldn't be saying, they also might be saying on Instagram. So watching those and focusing on those folks is really important. And then our FieldWatch Live add-on is to the ability to actively monitor platforms like Facebook Live, Reels, Instagram stories for potential infraction. That's where everybody's going. That's where we're seeing a lot of activity right now. So we're just now launching those. So pay attention, talk to your client success teams, those of you who are FieldWatch clients. And guys, thank you so much. I just think this was fantastic. I think the topic is really hot. We all want to know how to be better in our roles. We all want to be better at helping the field be more successful with their businesses. You guys are 3 of the best, and I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And any last words?
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a great panel. I've learned a lot too.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
We'll keep this
Get on your
going.
Ted Lasso hat. That's what I'm gonna tell you.
You're always talking about him. I gotta check that
I
out.
know. Yes.
Thank you guys so much. We're gonna keep this conversation going. Those of you who aren't in the forum, in the FieldWatch forum, or at least just watch our newsletters. We'll keep putting this information out there and keep doing these webinars, and hopefully you'll see us all again real soon.
Yeah.
So thank you guys. Appreciate it. Have a
Bye,
great rest of your
Thanks,
week.